years ago when I got a physical, I had my testosterone checked, right? And they called me and they said, "You're really low and your kidneys are shot." And I'm like, "What?" Hey guys, it should go without saying that testosterone is an extremely important hormone, especially for guys. Now, having reduced levels, lower levels can result in all kinds of things like reduced muscle mass, lower bone density, fatigue, depression, extra body fat. None of that's good. So in this video, I'm going to give you 6 simple proven ways to naturally boost your testosterone levels. And it's very likely you're lacking in at least one of these areas. I know I am. Make sure to stay until the end of the video, by the way, because I'm going to share my latest results. I took a test about a month ago. Going to show you my testosterone levels, cortisol, free androgen index, and more. Anyway, you guys should probably get tested too, kind of see where you're at. You can do it easily from the comfort of your own home, by the way. Check out a word from my sponsor for a little more info about that. This video is sponsored by Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked offers a whole array of tests you can do in the comfort and convenience of your own home. A lot of you may be most interested with the testosterone test. But how does Let's Get Checked work exactly? It's simple. You choose your test online and they'll send it to you in discreet packaging with next day delivery even as an option. Activate your test and take your sample in the morning. Depending on the test, it's either going to be blood, saliva, or something else. And then you return the sample with the prepaid shipping. Once the sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online portal within 2 to 5 days. It's never been this simple to get tested. Make sure to check out the website. I'll link in the description below and use my discount code for 30% off. It's VS30. All right, number 1, drink plenty of water. Yeah, it sounds so simple, but you're likely dehydrated. Most people are. The funny thing is, years ago when I got a physical, I had my testosterone checked, right? And they called me and they said, "You're really low and your kidneys are shot." And I'm like, "What?" So anyway, they said, "You know what? Don't be too concerned. We're going to retest you in a couple days. Just make sure you're hydrated, drink plenty of water." Anyway, a couple days later, retook the test. Everything was fine. And ever since, I always have multiple water bottles like throughout the house. I got one next to my bed. I always got one with me at the desk. I take like 2 or 3 of these to the gym. And that's another thing, by the way, when you're working out. There's an interesting study that found when people were exercising, if they were dehydrated, it actually led to elevated cortisol levels. So there's a benefit to working out that will increase your testosterone levels, but when these guys were dehydrated, it actually didn't have that effect. It was like counteracted with the increased cortisol levels. So anyway, make sure to drink water throughout the day and especially during the workout. Speaking of that, number 2, work out. I prefer lifting weights. I think everybody should lift weights, and there's an extra benefit to that. There's still a lot to learn when it comes to exercising and testosterone, but basically they found usually you will have elevated testosterone levels, maybe 15 minutes after you work out, an hour after you work out. You do get that temporary boost. Now, it's hard to say how much that would affect you long term, but having that boost multiple times throughout the week obviously is going to be beneficial, but just exercise in general is beneficial, so get to the gym. But don't overdo it, because they also had studies finding elite athletes or guys that overtrain basically had the opposite effect with reduced testosterone levels. So don't run yourself into the ground. Make sure you can actually recover pretty good in workouts, and all of that will tie into like your nutrition and your sleep habits. Speaking of which, number 3, sleep. Now this is the one I need to work on myself. This is the one that I'm severely lacking in. But there's so many benefits to a good night's sleep. In fact, you do get an increase in testosterone, usually peaks when you're in that dream state, and those levels remain elevated basically until you wake up. But not getting enough sleep will actually reduce your daytime testosterone levels, they found, by up to 15% when you only get 5 hours of sleep. In fact, one long-term study found that people who only got 4 hours of sleep were basically borderline deficient in testosterone. So yeah, work on that. I got to work on that myself. Most people are probably going to be fine with like 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but it's got to be consistent. So just try to get in the habit of doing that. Number 4, reduce stress.
Serenity now! Serenity now!
Now, the exact physiological connection between stress and testosterone isn't completely known, though it's likely correlated with cortisol. Cortisol is, after all, known as the stress hormone, and having elevated cortisol levels will negatively impact your testosterone levels, so there's definitely going to be a connection there. In general, stress is so negative on so many different areas within your body, right? I mean, it probably cause a stroke. I don't even know if they found a direct correlation as to why, but I think most people know that there is a connection there. So anyway, reduce stress. Try to find ways. Take a walk out in nature. Do yoga. Work out. Do martial arts. Paint a picture. Find something for yourself, like your me time, and relax. Maybe even try meditation. Just try to do something that can get all the noise and the anxiety out of your head, and just focus in the moment, basically, of with what you're doing, whether you're cooking or painting or anything. All right, speaking of cooking, number 5, don't cut too much fat off of your diets. Saturated fat, in fact, is a precursor to testosterone production, so you kind of want that. And if you just cut that out entirely, well, not good. But make sure you try to get the healthier fats. Try to avoid all your trans fats. That's mostly going to be like in your processed foods and all that other garbage. As far as saturated fat, it's solid at room temperature, so it's easy to identify. It's usually, if you see a fatty steak, a lot of that fat's going to be saturated. So enjoy a nice fatty steak, enjoy a nice burger, but don't go overboard. I mean, you might have high levels of cholesterol, so don't go overboard with that. Current guidelines basically say you should have like 25-30% of your calories from fat and 10% of that from saturated fat. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're mapping out your diet, and kind of make sure you're not going too crazy. Now, saturated fat, by the way, is also vital when it comes to absorbing vitamin A and vitamin D. Speaking of which, that's number 6, vitamin D. If you're going to supplement it, vitamin D3 has been known to basically better elevate your blood levels. You can also just go in the sun. The sun's natural UVB rays, I believe, there's like a chemical process between the cholesterol in your skin, and it could produce vitamin D within your body. But most people are deficient in vitamin D, so keep that in mind. One study found that people who supplemented 3,332 international units IUs of vitamin D actually had a 25% increase in testosterone. Anyway, a lot of you are likely lacking in at least one of those 6 things. For me, it was sleep. Just to make sure that your levels are in check, you probably should get tested. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and share my results right here. Okay, so if I check my testosterone levels from Let's Get Checked, basically looking at this, the normal range would be 259 to 850 nanograms per deciliter. So I'm right above the middle range at 643. So not bad. Not bad. Sex hormone binding globulin, I'm actually closer to the upper end of the range here at 46.4, low end 17.4, upper end 53.6. And then the free androgen index, I'm 51.13, and they want you in a range at 25 to 98 basically. So all this stuff's normal, which is good. And as far as cortisol goes, I'm definitely at the lower end of the range. You should be between 0.198 and 2.371 on this reading, and I'm right at 0.691, so I'm definitely sitting on the lower end of the range. I do feel like I don't have a ton of stress in my life. I mean, I do lift weights all the time. I do martial arts all the time. I try to, be calm. So, yeah, I mean, I got that working for me, at least. So if you do have low levels of testosterone, I'd say before considering TRT or any other long-term therapy like that, try these 6 tips out. Get tested, see where you're at, maybe get tested in another 6 months to kind of see if it's increased. Now, obviously, your testosterone levels do fluctuate throughout the day, so if you get tested in the morning, make sure you always do your tests in the morning, for example. That's usually when it's recommended.